What is up, everybody? This is Adam. Welcome back to Fouled Out. Matt is going to be joining me in just a moment to talk week 2 of the NFL season. We are going to take a look at all of the teams who have started 2-0 or 0-2 and talk about what that means for their playoff futures. That's right. We are talking NFL playoffs after only 2 weeks of football because starting 0-2 or 2-0 actually has a statistically significant impact on whether or not you make the playoffs. So we're going to take a look at all of those teams and talk about the biggest surprises, who we think is going to fall off, come back, all of that fun stuff. And then at the end of the pod, we will start looking forward to week 3 with our gambling picks and the eliminator pool pick for week 3. We won again last week, and we are feeling good early in the season, although I think the culling is coming because a lot of people have been doing really well so far, and that can only mean one thing. But before we get started, just a reminder, you can reach out to us, fouledoutsports@gmail.com. Really appreciate you guys listening or watching. If you're checking it out on YouTube, if you haven't gone to the YouTube channel yet, look it up, fouledoutsports@gmail.com. Make sure you guys are subscribing and liking the video so you can help us grow that channel. But really appreciate you guys supporting us, and we always love to hear from you. Baseball season's coming to an end soon. Let me know where your team is at. My team, the Boston Red Sox, I think is maybe on the verge of blowing a playoff spot that they've been holding on to for 3 months. So no Red Sox rant this week, but good news for all of you that really enjoy me leading off the pod bitching about the Red Sox. You might get one next week. We'll see what happens this weekend. But for now, let's grab Matt. Let's talk week 2 of the NFL. Let's go. All right, Matt is here, fresh off of week 2 of the NFL. Matt, how you doing, buddy?
I am, let's say, 52 points good.
I think that this is going to be a much happier pod than it was last week. Both of our teams won this weekend. Your team, the Motor City Kitties, in convincing fashion. My team, an absolute roller coaster of emotion from beginning to finish against the Miami Dolphins. But you know what, Matt? We beat Tua Tagovailoa for the first time. Going into that game, Tua was 7-0 career versus the Patriots, something that we could not let stand any further. So you let that be a lesson to everybody out there. Nobody beats the Patriots 8 consecutive times. Nobody. I think like a lot of teams, we're feeling a lot better after our week 1 losses, bouncing back in week 2. Unfortunately, not everybody who started 0-1 was able to bounce back. We do have 10 teams that are 0-2 to start the season. And we talk about this every year, but if you start 0-2 in the NFL, since 1970, only 10% of teams who have started 0-2 have made the playoffs. When the playoffs expanded in 1990, that percentage shot up from 10 to 12% of teams who started 0-2. Mm-hmm. And then when the playoffs expanded further in 2020, that percentage stayed about the same. So since 1990, it's been 12.2% of teams who have started 0-2 have made the playoffs. So I think you can look at that one of two ways. If you're 0-2, you can say, hey, we have a 10% chance to make the playoffs. Or you can say there are 10 teams who are 0-2. One of them's got to make the playoffs statistically. So, I mean, depending on which one of these teams you're a fan of, like if you're a Dolphins fan, you're like, hey, we only have a 10% chance to make the playoffs. Let's fire Mike McDaniel immediately, which just my not so bold prediction. I think they're just waiting until they get whomped by the Bills on Thursday night before they finally pull the trigger on that. But if I was a Chiefs fan, I would be sitting here right now like, look, there's 10 0-2 teams. One of them has to make the playoffs. Statistically, that's how statistics work. We have to make it. We're the best one.
We all know that it's going to be the Saints.
Obviously. Do you remember at this point last year, we were sitting here and the Saints were 2-0. They had outscored their opponents like 99-20 and had the highest DVOA in the history of the NFL.
Yeah, they had put up like 92 points over those 2 games.
Yeah, I think Kamara was going crazy in fantasy, and it was like, Clint Kubiak and the Saints. What happened next? Matt?
Literally nothing. Because the rest of their season was a disaster. In fairness, there were a lot of injuries that contributed to that, but still, the first 2 weeks are always a lie.
Yeah. You know what would be hilarious is if the inverse of that happened this year and the Saints started 0-2 this year and looked horrible and then ripped off like a 13-4 record. But as I mentioned, we do have 10 teams who are 0-2. We have the Houston Texans, the Kansas City Chiefs, the Carolina Panthers, Tennessee Titans, previously mentioned New Orleans, the Jets, the Bears, the Browns, the Dolphins, and the Giants. Every year, we come in after week 2 and we say, okay, who is the most likely to bounce back? And last year it was the Ravens who had that really bad start. I was going to ask you that question, but I can't see a world where either of us pick any of those teams except for Houston or Kansas City. I guess before I go on to the question, are any of those 8 teams not named Kansas City or Houston, do you see any of them potentially bouncing back into a playoff spot?
No.
Yeah. It's kind of Houston, Kansas City, and then like the 8 teams that we expected to be the worst teams in the league.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
You know, maybe that's being a little bit hard on the Bears because some people had expectations for them, but not on this podcast.
Not
really.
Ones.
Yeah. So I'll ask the question, who are you more concerned about right now, the Houston Texans or the Kansas City Chiefs? It's a surprisingly difficult question to answer. I had a hard time answering it as well.
I think it's still got to be Houston. Because while Kansas City has had issues with their offensive line, theirs is still better. Right?
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, only one of these two teams gets to say, yeah, but we have Patrick Mahomes, and that is how we know magic is real.
Well, I thought of it like this. I think Houston has a bigger weakness than anything I would consider a weakness for Kansas City right now.
Yeah.
Like, that offensive line is one of the biggest weaknesses that any team in the NFL has right now.
Mm-hmm.
We talked about this in the preseason. This is a hot-ish take that I had that I feel good about, is that Houston is not going to make the playoffs this year, specifically because the offensive line was going to be so bad. Because it was the worst in the league last year, and then they took the one guy on it who was good and sent him somewhere else.
Yeah.
So we knew it was going to be bad. As bad as I thought it was going to be, I don't know if I thought it was going to be as bad as it actually is. Like, watching them against the Buccaneers on Monday night and watching CJ Stroud take that sack on the 2-point conversion near the end of the game, I was just like, dude, CJ Stroud had
that play was such a perfect summary of what this team is.
I know. CJ Stroud had a 35% bad throw percentage on Monday.
Yeah.
And people are just like, oh man, it's a CJ Stroud problem. And I was like, I don't fully disagree with that, but I feel like part of the CJ Stroud problem is that CJ Stroud is going to become the first person to die on an NFL field this year because he's getting his ass kicked every single play. So
yeah, like, two things can be true. This can be objectively the worst offensive line in the NFL right now, and CJ Stroud can be playing poorly under pressure. Like that,
yeah.
Like, those two things can be true at the same time, because that's how you get to 0-2. And the unfortunate reality for him is that every drop back is under pressure.
Yeah, so the Texans have the bigger weakness of the two teams, but I would also argue that the Texans have a bigger strength than Kansas City has, because the Texans' defense has been lights out.
Yeah.
essentially for 2 games. Like, they held the Rams to 14. They held the Bucks to 20. I know that last drive by Baker Mayfield was pretty dope, but that was a lot of like big show magic,
Yeah.
when it was important. So I look at the Texans, I'm like, well, at least they have something to hang their hat on at the end of the day, is that their defense is good and their defense is going to keep them in every game. The next 2 weeks they play the Titans and the Jags. Potentially they could win both of those games just based on the strength of the defense alone. But then after that, the schedule is pretty freaking brutal. And you start going up against teams that have really, really good fronts. They have the Ravens, the Seahawks, the 49ers, and the Broncos the following 5 weeks after playing the Jags and then the Titans. So, I don't know. With Houston, it's like any team that has a good front, I think, is going to destroy them.
Well, all right, let me ask you this. Who is coming back for the Texans that's going to help them?
Nobody this year.
Literally no, right?
Yeah.
So, let's look at the other team. Sounds like Xavier Worthy's going to come back, right? Not maybe a huge needle mover, but certainly can help the offense. And we know Rashee Rice will be back after week 6. And, like, quite frankly, he is the most vital piece of their pass game that is not Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah. I know they're getting those guys back, but I keep hearing the same refrain from Chiefs fans and from media members over and over again. Oh, just wait till Rashee Rice comes back. Oh, once Rashee Rice comes back, this is going to be totally different. The last time we saw Rashee Rice play football was over a year ago.
Yeah.
It's been a full calendar year because Patrick Mahomes absolutely annihilated that dude's knee. And I don't think that having a whole year off football and needing to recover from major knee surgery and then committing like 2 felonies and getting suspended for the felonies, which granted happened prior to last season, but getting suspended for them, not playing football for an entire calendar year plus another month or so coming off a major surgery. I don't think Rashee Rice is just going to step in and automatically cure what is ailing the Kansas City Chiefs.
No, but I'd rather take my chances with that than have Hollywood Brown be my number 1.
Yeah.
Like, Yeah. My point is that things have the potential to get better based on guys coming back, right? There are no reinforcements for Houston.
I guess technically there's Mixon. Is that going to have an impact? Probably not, because I thought Chubb looked decent on Monday. Like, he had that one really good touchdown run near the end of the game. But I want to ask you this about Kansas City, because I can tell you, like, here's what Houston does bad. Here's what Houston does well. What does Kansas City do well right now?
Right now? I don't have an answer for you, honestly.
Yeah.
The defense has been bad. They didn't run the ball well.
Mm-hmm.
All their receivers are dead.
Mm-hmm.
And Travis Kelce is a living hitman.
Yeah. The fact that Travis Kelce has essentially cost them 2 games to start the season is a little wild to me. Week 1, he absolutely
But he's in the best shape of his life.
Yeah. Well, we're going to have a bit of a conversation about Mr. Kelce later in America's favorite segment, because I have quite a few things to say about Travis. But the Chiefs, like, you hit the nail on the head. They don't run the ball well. They don't throw the ball well. They don't play defense particularly well. All this team has going for them right now is that they have Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid, and all of the Chiefs fans and all the media members in the offseason were saying, like, hey, it's okay, just trust the infrastructure, trust the infrastructure. I would argue that through 2 weeks, the infrastructure is the only thing keeping them in games, but it's not winning them games against good teams. And I think you can make that argument too, is like, maybe they just played one of the best teams in the AFC in Brazil, and then they played one of the best teams in the NFC.
Yeah.
But I guess my concern about the Chiefs is not, can you bounce back and make the playoffs, and like, can you beat the Giants on Monday or Sunday? Because I'm sure they can.
Mm-hmm.
My concern is, can you beat the Chargers? Can you beat the Eagles?
Mm-hmm.
Because like, if you're the Kansas City Chiefs, your goal is not like, hey, we're going to be 10-7, make the playoffs. You're trying to win a Super Bowl.
Right. Well, I think right now the answer to that is unequivocally no. Right. So I think the real question is, when those reinforcements come back, is that enough? And we're not going to know until they're back, obviously. But also that, like, the offensive line just needs to get better, right? And that can happen by just continuing to play together. I mean, we saw that from a number of offensive lines this past week. But, man, like, it honestly starts there. If the offensive line doesn't get better, then starting 0-2, that might already be it for their playoff chances, which means just by me saying that, they're going to win the next 14.
Yeah, obviously.
So.
Yeah, I think the offensive line can get better just by virtue of Josh Simmons as a rookie coming off of a major knee reconstruction. Or whatever I forgot what his thing was. He tore something in his knee, some kind of maybe patellar tendon.
It was I think it was the patellar tendon.
Yeah. So he is starting as a rookie, which is hard enough. You're also trying to come back off that surgery. So if he gets better, which I expect him to, because I like him, that could be a big piece, is having a good left tackle.
It's also tough because, like, I don't know what, as like an offensive tackle, what is that moment where you're like, okay, I'm back, right? Because like for Hutchinson last week, like, it was that first sack. Like, he got a bunch of pressures throughout the game. He was a maniac, but like, you could see after he got that sack, that first sack of the season out of the way, you could kind of see he's like, okay, like, I feel like me again. I don't know what the equivalent of that is for an offensive lineman, because I don't know if there can be one. It
wasn't when Josh Simmons chased down the safety from the Eagles after the interception and tackled him, because I thought that was a good example of why I like Josh Simmons so much in the draft, was just the athleticism on display, chasing that guy down 30 or 40 yards downfield or whatever it was. I was like, yeah, there it is. But I also don't know, like, as a rookie offensive lineman who's coming off of a surgery, like, how do you know when you're back? Because you don't have a baseline to go off of in the NFL. So you're like, I guess we're back. I'm calling. When do you call the "we're so back" department? I don't know. But I guess the other thing about Kansas City that's a little bit concerning to me is, being 0-2 is one thing, but in your next 4 games, you also have the Baltimore Ravens and the Detroit Lions, 2 teams that are going to be chomping at the bit to beat you. So if you're 2-4, like, assuming they beat the Giants this weekend and then they're able to take down the Jags, I think is the other team on their schedule, which I don't think that either of those things are guaranteed right now. But being 0-2 is really different than being 2-4. And now we're 6 weeks into a season and you're potentially, 3 or 4 games behind the Chargers for first place based on how they've looked, so that's a bit concerning. But if I really had to answer the question and say, who am I more concerned about, I would go Houston. And I guess part of that is just confirmation bias that I didn't expect them to be good or make the playoffs this year anyway. And while you could make the same argument, like, well, they played the Rams and the Bucks, like, those are 2 playoff teams in the NFC probably. I just think that any team that has even like a decent front is going to push them around. It's going to be an issue for their offense. On the flip side, on the happy side, we also have 10 teams that are 2-0. Teams that start 2-0 since 2020 when they expanded the playoffs make the playoffs at a 78.6% clip. So almost 80%. Our 10 2-0 teams, we have the Green Bay Packers, the Indianapolis Colts, the Chargers, the 49ers, the Bills, the Eagles, the Cincinnati Bengals, the Buccaneers, the Cardinals, and the Rams. So theoretically, 8 of those 10 teams are going to make the playoffs. Out of that group I named, who's been the biggest surprise for you so far? Like, who are you the most shocked is 2-0?
I mean, Indy, for sure. Did not have them beating Denver, which I know you have thoughts on.
Wait, you didn't have Daniel Jones throwing right at Patrick Surtain in clutch moments to move the ball?
I don't think Daniel Jones had that.
It seemed like he did, because he was like, that last drive where they're going down to get the field goal, he was targeting Pat Surtain. And I was like,
yeah.
Who is this man playing quarterback for the Colts?
Yeah. Like, I can promise you Patrick Surtain did not foresee that happening.
That's probably why it worked.
Yeah, right? They'll never see it coming.
The best place to hide is in plain sight. Yeah, I think the Colts have been a surprise for sure. I'm surprised Cincy is 2-0. Just after all of the issues we've seen with Cincy in the first 2 weeks of an NFL season over the course of the last 5 years.
In the reverse this year.
This is the thing. It's like, can you imagine being a Cincy fan? And I feel like it's like a real monkey's paw moment where you're like, oh God, I just wish we could get off to a good start. And the monkey's paw like curls. It's like, okay, Cincy, here's your good start. Have fun without Burrow for the next 3 months. Right when he's supposed to heat up, we're back to Jake Browning season. I asked you this through text, but I think we should talk about it on the pod real quick too. Joe Burrow's been a consensus like top 4 quarterback in the NFL for a little while now. Like, there's, before this season and really before last season, we're like, okay, there are these 4 guys who are kind of floating above everybody else with Allen, Lamar, Burrow, and Mahomes. And then you know, those are your top 4. And then you start rating all the other quarterbacks. With Joe Burrow's history now of various injuries and being unavailable, like, how long is it until he is no longer part of that like core 4? Because those other guys don't miss the playoffs like Burrow did last year.
Yeah.
Those other guys do not miss the amount of games that Burrow misses. So, like, does he get a pass because the situation sucks with his O-line? Or, like, when do we start criticizing him for not winning as much as his peers and then not playing as much as his peers?
So, I think the way it's affecting it right now, at least for me, can't speak for how everyone else is ranking them. He's locked in at 4. Like, he's not going to go any lower right now unless, you know, this happens next year and the year after, you know, so on and so forth. But his lack of availability also makes it so that, like, it kind of doesn't matter what else he does, he can't go up. And the reason why, for me, I can't really have him go any lower at this moment in time is, like, at the end of the day, if I'm in the playoffs and I have to play against one of those other 3 quarterbacks, if I don't have one of those top 4, then I'm just not beating them. Right? Like, at the end of the day, historically speaking, that's how that goes. Um, and so, yeah, for now, like, it's kind of a risk I'm willing to take. But, like, he's got to turn around this in the second half of his career to be available. And and at that point, if he is available and he's not making the playoffs, then there's a totally different conversation. I think right now the availability is a fair and valid criticism. That
Yeah, I
defense last year, the fact that they even got close to the playoffs was incredible. But like you only get so many years of that, right? I mean, yeah, Stafford dealt with that too, right? And I was supportive of him through that. But the difference is that people weren't still rating him top four. There were people who were arguing he's not even top 10.
yeah. I feel
So,
like Burrow's kind of lived off of the fact that he made a Super Bowl. He's like the only AFC quarterback who's
yeah.
made a Super Bowl in the Patrick Mahomes era, basically.
Mm-hmm.
And Allen and Lamar still have not done that. But it's like, how many years do you get credit for that after the fact? Where you're like, okay,
Yeah.
at least this guy's beat Patrick. But he beat him one time, and it was years ago, and he's never come close since then. So,
Yeah, I mean, Doug Peterson got like what, 6, 7 years of credibility out of it.
yeah. Yeah. So we might still be on the credit. He might not have lost his credibility yet. And I don't think he has, because I think he gets more excuses than
Mm-hmm.
other quarterbacks. And, I wonder if like someone like Lamar was in Burrow's situation where he was putting up all the stats but not getting the wins, if people would be giving him the same breaks, considering that he's never made a Super Bowl.
Well,
You know?
I mean, early in Lamar's career, he was winning, but the stats weren't necessarily there, right? But he didn't have Jamar Chase and T. Higgins, and I think they had Gesicki at one point, right? Like all sorts of weapons. Joe Mixon, like he had Greg Roman calling his passing game. Like I'm not. We literally have these narratives to compare back to, right? So Lamar literally didn't get the same benefit of the doubt. And I'm not trying to use that to say like we should be moving down Joe Burrow below 4. I don't think that is wise, based on what we have seen Joe Burrow capable of doing. Uh, but at this point in time, like, I would say it's a top 3, and then there's Joe Burrow, and then there's another tier below that.
Yeah, it does feel like he's almost in a tier of his own at this point. But I I think NFL discourse, and like really all sports discourse, is more generous to people who win things. So the fact that Joe Burrow did win an AFC championship and did go to a Super Bowl, I think he's going to get the benefit of the doubt for like you said, Doug Peterson got it for 7 years, but the difference is that like Burrow is still putting up numbers where Doug
Mm-hmm.
Peterson like sucked as a coach, and Burrow's like, hey, here's 5,000 yards and 40 something touchdowns. My
Yeah,
defense just sucks. And so we'll all look at that and be like, it's an excuse. But
yeah,
the excuses just start to pile up at some point where it's like, okay, well,
mm-hmm.
you were hurt this year, and then your defense sucked, and then you're hurt again, and then like this,
Yeah,
and then this, and this. And I do think that there will be a point where people will just get sick of it all and just be like, yeah, he's 5, now he's 6, now he's
mm-hmm.
7. Like, I mean, you taking all things into account, injury history, all the stuff. You're trying to win a Super Bowl this year. Who would you rather have, Joe Burrow or Baker Mayfield?
You had to say him, right? Because I love a good bake show.
Yeah.
Uh, no, like, because I'm confident that Baker's gonna play, so I'm gonna take Baker,
That's the thing. Is
right?
like, I mean, I'm using Baker as a good example because he's tough as nails, and also he puts
Mm-hmm.
up the numbers comparable to those other guys.
Yeah,
But I think when you start taking Joe Burrow's injury history into account, especially with the fact that like now it's like, hey, he's gonna have surgery for turf toe,
mm-hmm.
and the history of dudes who have had surgery for turf toe is not good. Like it ended, I think there's like 20 guys and it ended 5 of their careers. The other guys didn't come back that year. So they're like, he's going to have surgery. He'll be back in 3 months. We're probably not going to see Joe Burrow till next year. So this is going to
Yeah,
be potentially another year lost for Joe Burrow while Baker is out there with like, what did he have in the Cleveland playoff game against Kansas City? He had like 6 different injuries and he's like, fuck it, we ball.
yeah,
And
yeah.
granted, they didn't win, but he was out
And
there.
right, but that was apparently the reason that Cleveland decided to move on from him.
Yeah. They're like, this guy, we can't trust him. Like
Yeah,
literally what else could he do? And now he's one of the best quarterbacks in the league. So
yeah.
probably good for Baker. Good for
I
Baker.
love how there's this narrative of like the Baker comeback story, but like the thing that he's coming back from is being in Cleveland.
Just
Like,
this man was drafted by the Cleveland Browns and still became one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. The Baker Mayfield story. Holy shit. Has anybody ever overcome such odds?
honestly,
I defy you to
no,
find an answer.
not in the last 40 years.
So Cincinnati's surprised that they're 2-0, but we'll see how
Mm-hmm.
long that lasts. Also been pleasantly surprised by the Chargers of LA.
Yeah,
You know, they look like one of the very best teams in the NFL right now, which when Slater went down, I think we both had our concerns where they're like, yeah, they'll just slide Joe
yeah.
Walt over to the left. And it's like, okay, that's great. But then who plays right tackle?
Mm-hmm.
Number 3 in DVOA right now. There are 3. If you look up the EPA chart, the EPA per play, there are 3 teams that are in like solidly off of the line in quadrant 1. So, you know, the quadrants are like positive EPA per play on offense, positive EPA per play on defense, positive on offense, negative on defense, positive on defense, negative on offense, blah, blah, blah. So you want to be in quadrant 1. You want to have
Mm-hmm.
positive EPA on offense, and then whatever the inverse is, the negative EPA per play on defense against. There are 3 teams that are like really solidly in that quadrant right now. And it's the Chargers, the Rams, and the Green Bay Packers. You know, those 3 teams have really looked like the 3 best teams to start this season. And also Green Bay is number 1 in DVOA right now at 55%. But the Chargers were a team that we did not pick to make the playoffs. And when we picked that, I was like, they are going to shove this up our asses. And then we're going to bet against them in the first round of the playoffs. And we're going to make a bunch of money. So pleasantly surprised by them, but excited for our investment opportunity coming in about 18 weeks. So I feel like I'm like a sleazy salesman right now. Partially because I took my hoodie off and we've entered the thirst trap phase of the Fouled Out podcast because I'm wearing a cutoff Under Armour shirt. But also because I'm like, okay, Fouled Out listeners, I want to get you in on the ground floor of an incredible investment opportunity. And that is to bet against the Chargers during their first playoff game. The better the Chargers do during the regular season, the more lucrative this investment opportunity becomes. If they're the best team in the league and get the 1 seed, cash money, baby. We're talking like plus 400 odds. Maybe in the second round of the playoffs, maybe plus 300, but like lucrative investment opportunity coming our way. So I will be rooting for the Chargers.
Yeah, yeah, that is just locked in.
Just, yeah. I want you all to just start like a little savings account off to the side of all your other investments and be like, this is the money I'm betting against the Chargers at the end of the season. And just put a little bit of your paycheck in it. Because we're going to like either triple it or quadruple it if they get the 1 seed. I'm telling you. But I said that only 80% of these teams make the playoffs of our 10 undefeateds.
Mm-hmm.
You got to pick 2 teams from the 10-team group to not make the playoffs. Who are you picking?
Well, I'm gonna go with San Fran and Indy, or not Indy, Cincy. I mean, I am tempted to pick Indy, but that was my divisional pick, so I got to pull for it. Yeah. But San Francisco, the injuries are already starting, and I just can't imagine that in the back half of the year it's gonna just turn around and they'll be healthy. I know their schedule is super easy, but like all the warning signs are there that this is just going to be another year where everyone gets hurt because all their stars are older players, except for like Nick Bosa.
I want to ask you a question. Well, Nick Bosa is still probably out with a broken heart right now. I will not elaborate on that point further. I want to ask you this question about the 49ers, though. So Mac Jones against the Saints on Sunday. 26 of 39, 279 yards, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions. If Brock Purdy had played that game, would he have posted a better stat line than that? Like, how much better would Brock Purdy have been in that game with no Kittle?
I think it would have been marginally better, yeah. But not by, like, a tremendous amount.
I don't know that it would have been. I feel like that is such a Brock Purdy stat line with, like, the limited amount of weapons they have. I'm like, how is what Mac Jones did on Sunday any different than what Brock Purdy would have done in that game?
I mean, it was against the Saints.
Yeah.
I do believe that a healthy Brock Purdy can beat up on the Saints.
I don't know. I feel like that was the Brock Purdy performance. I feel like the difference between the two of them is not going to come against the Saints. I feel like it's going to come against the good teams. But Matt, the problem is they don't play any goddamn good teams this season. They play the Rams twice. That's pretty much it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not like that particular injury that's worrying me. Like it's certainly a start, but like how many games are we gonna get out of Trent Williams this year?
Yeah.
Right.
I don't know.
Do we get 8?
I don't know.
If they don't get like 15, then I don't know if they can make the playoffs.
Yeah, I think that's really the point I'm getting at is like if Trent Williams and Christian McCaffrey are healthy, I'm not as concerned about like the Ayuks and the Purdys and the Kittles of the world because that's like the core. That's the straw that stirs the drink on the offense is having those two guys healthy. You're saying how many games out of Trent Williams? How many games out of Christian McCaffrey and Trent Williams? Because that's a big ask.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But I did not pick San Francisco. I still have faith in San Francisco. They're saying that Purdy does have a chance to play on Sunday against the Cardinals. I also said Cincy just because of the fact, like, I think when Cincy gets further into their season and starts playing better teams, they were just really going to need Burrow to ball out to win these games just because you spent all your money on 3 dudes and now one of the dudes is gone for the foreseeable future. And your defense sucks. So I like Browning's a good backup, congrats to winning that game on Sunday. Yeah. But like playing the Jags is one thing, playing the Ravens twice and all these other teams who are on their schedule is going to be a completely different thing for him.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, their defense statistically hasn't been like a disaster this year. Sure. I don't know how long that's going to hold up.
Yeah, but who have they faced? They
faced
Joe Flacco and Trevor Lawrence.
But my point is like, so Jake Browning plays a totally different style of football than Joe Burrow does. Jake Browning likes to get the ball out quick. Joe Burrow likes to hold on to the ball and like throw deeper routes, get the big plays. That means that in order for them to be successful, they're going to have to sustain long drives. Typically, in order to be successful with that, your offensive line needs to be good and consistent, which is not words that I would use to describe their offensive line, as is evidenced by Joe Burrow's current state. Yeah. So, like, is this team going to be able to consistently put up like 28 points per game to give the defense a chance to win them a game?
Yeah. I really feel like I wasted my time this offseason when I went through and did my rankings where I was like, I'm going to rank O-line, D-line, quarterback, coach. I should have just ranked O-lines and just picked the teams with the best O-lines to be good teams this year. It just seems like so many teams have O-line issues. Like, it's like the hardest position group to figure out right now.
Mm-hmm.
But I said the 49ers still going to make the playoffs. The team I am picking to not make the playoffs out of this group is the Arizona Cardinals. The Cardinals are 2-0. They've played two of the worst teams in the league, the Saints and the Panthers. They have not won convincingly in either game. And like, we're just relying on Kyler Murray to be consistent for the whole season. I love Kyler. I love Kyler probably more than anybody else does. Side note, I don't know why.
On a pathological level.
I don't know why I have this weird group of like NFL players that I'm like, I love these guys. Jordan Love, Kyler Murray. Like, those are my guys for some reason. But I just have not seen the ability out of the Cardinals to put away bad teams yet. And that concerns me deeply. Like, they were up by a ton on the Panthers, and then all of a sudden Bryce Young has 380 yards passing. I'm like, okay, this is a concern because this was the easiest part of your schedule. The beginning.
Yeah.
Now they play the 49ers and maybe Mac Jones on Sunday. So maybe they catch a break, but maybe not. Yeah. Like if San Francisco beats them, then all of a sudden we're like, yeah. I don't know, man. Kyler Murray against good teams. Not incredible. And they still have the 49ers, the Seahawks, and the Rams all twice on their schedule.
Yeah. No, definitely, if I had more teams to choose, the Cards would probably be in there. But, yeah, I don't know. I just... I guess for me, the difference here is that the construction of the 49ers roster is essentially that of an egg. Right? Like, hey, that shell, the shape is actually really efficient. It can be really good. Boy, once you crack through that shell, it is useless.
Is Mac Jones like the yolk in this situation, or like is this we're gonna get into like the part of Kyle Shanahan having egg on his face? There's a pun here somewhere.
Yeah,
I'll find it. All right, America's favorite segment, back for week 2 of the NFL season. Bolds and scolds for week 2. It is my week to go first. I wrote it down in the notes. Thank you very much. It's the only way I remember things nowadays because I'm 35 and I have 2 children. Can't remember shit. My bold for week 2 is bad quarterbacks. And I mean like quarterbacks that we perceived to be bad. I think if you had told me in the preseason that Daniel Jones, Mac Jones, Jake Browning, and Russell Wilson would all play well in a week and that 3 of them would win football games, I probably wouldn't have believed you. But here we are. Daniel Jones beats the Denver Broncos. And I'm putting beats in air quotes. He technically beat them, which is the most important kind. But goes 23 of 34 Sunday, 316 yards, a touchdown, and another rushing touchdown. I mentioned earlier that they were specifically throwing at Pat Surtain on that last drive. I had no idea what I was watching. Mac Jones, great with limited weapons in the 49ers offense. He throws 3 touchdowns, which he has not done a lot in his career. I think that was like the 8th time in however many tries. Browning comes in and is a little like up and down, but does win the game. He leads that game-winning drive and gets the rushing touchdown to put Cincinnati ahead. Bryce Young threw for 328 yards and 3 touchdowns against the Cardinals. Russell Wilson, 450 passing yards and 3 touchdowns against the Dallas Cowboys, busting out the offense that we thought that they should have in New York with Russell Wilson, where they're like, fuck it, we're throwing moon balls. Malik Neighbors is down there somewhere. I just like to see that many quarterbacks that we consider to be bad have good games and for a lot of them win football games on Sunday. I was like, I don't know, man. We always talk about how the quarterback position is the most important in football, but I'm watching these dudes who I would have ranked in the bottom half of the league or lower coming into this season, like ball out. Like Daniel Jones is 2-0 and has been legitimately good for the Indianapolis Colts. Like, when was the last time Russell Wilson threw for 450, if ever? If ever. And he was like, credit to Russ, man. He was dropping dimes. Like, he was dropping that thing in the bucket against Dallas. That was a great game for Russ. You know, and like, granted, there were bad quarterbacks who played bad this weekend too, but like, there was a group of like 5 or 6 guys where I was like, hats off to you guys, man. Good job playing football. Yeah. Who was your bold for week 2?
I'm still riding the high of the fun that was watching Baker Mayfield on Monday Night Football. The Bake Show, man, and like, he's 5-0 on touchdown interception ratio this year so far too, which I know it's early, but like, that is the knock on Baker, is like, oh, he'll turn the ball over. Well, he's not doing that, right? But I was texting you about this earlier today, and I think Baker is probably, from an athletic side, like objectively athleticism, like measurable way of looking at it, like Baker's probably in the bottom third of the league of like starting quarterbacks in terms of their like athletic ability. But then like you see him out there on the field when it's time for him to do it, and like, he is objectively a better mover than these guys that are clearly better athletes than him. And I just feel like that perfectly sums up what an absolute baller he is. Like, the swag that he brings to every time he touches the ball. And like, without it being like over the top or like unnecessarily flashy, it's just like, dude's out here trying to make plays every time he touches the ball. And like, it's hard to watch that game and be like, feel like Tampa Bay isn't always a threat against every team every single week.
Yeah. I saw a graphic on Reddit that was getting popular this week that said, "Is Baker Mayfield elite?" And it showed his stats compared to the big four quarterbacks since he joined Tampa. And he's thrown for the most yards and the most touchdowns since he's joined the Buccaneers. I think it's like 2 seasons. I think it's been.
They did conveniently not include rushing touchdowns. So, like, it does skew that in his favor.
Yeah, but I think, like,
but yes, like,
to say, though, that he has thrown for more yards and more touchdowns than any other player in the NFL over the course of the last 2 seasons. He's off to a good start this year. And I think, like, that last drive of Monday Night Football where the Buccaneers have it 4th and 10 or whatever it is, and he drops back, there's a rush in his face and he escapes and runs for a first down. He gets hit, he front flips, looks like he might have hurt his ankle, and instead of like laying on the ground and holding his ankle, he instantly gets up and starts talking shit to Houston. I was like, Baker is what so many athletes like try to be. Like, I hate to bring up Jason Tatum on an NFL podcast, but fucking, like, Jason Tatum wishes he was Baker Mayfield.
Yeah.
Like, all of the fake bravado shit that Jason Tatum does and all the fake quotes and all the fake swag, Baker has that for real.
Yeah.
That's really him. And it shows on the field all the time. And, like, when I said earlier, who would you rather have, Burrow or Baker Mayfield? Like, from a leadership aspect, from a swag aspect, I don't know that there's any quarterback that you would rather have than Baker Mayfield in the entire NFL. Like, just that like borderline cocky, like, everybody in that locker room looks at that guy and goes like, "Hey, it's okay, we got Baker. Like, yeah, we're down 6, but we got Baker. We can go do this." You know, my scold week 2 of the NFL season is the Kansas City Chiefs, and more specifically, one Travis Kelce. Some Kansas City players, most prominently Travis Kelce, wore shirts for warm-ups on Sunday that said "Free 4." Number 4 referring to Rashee Rice, who is suspended for the first 6 games of this season due to violating the NFL's personal conduct policy. And when I say violating the NFL's personal conduct policy, what I mean is racing a Lamborghini at 120 miles an hour on the highway, causing a 7-car pileup that injured many civilians, and then running away with his friend from the scene of the crime. He settled in court for, I think, $1.1 million. The accident was a little bit over a year ago. I think it was in 2024, before the 2024 season. According to the plaintiff's lawyer, Rashee Rice has not paid a single penny of the $1.1 million settlement yet. You have multiple people in that accident who are living in chronic pain now. Matt, do you know what the punishment would be for me if I drove my car 120 miles an hour on the highway and caused a 7-car pileup that caused great bodily harm to civilians?
You would be in the penitentiary.
Yeah, it is between 5 and 15 years in prison.
Yeah.
Not jail, prison.
Mm-hmm.
Rashee Rice's punishment is that he's not allowed to play a sport with his friends for 6 weeks.
Yeah.
And Travis Kelce felt the need to don a shirt that says "Free number 4." To make matters worse, pregame, there was this massive segment on Fox of Aaron Andrews interviewing Kelce and being like, "Oh, Travis, you just got engaged to Taylor Swift. How's it feel? How's the wedding planning? Oh my God. Does losing the Super Bowl, does that light a fire in your heart to go?" And blah, blah, blah. Travis Kelce's a fucking jackass. Wearing that shirt I think it's just a microcosm of how disconnected celebrities and famous athletes are
Yeah.
to everyday people. That I don't care that he's engaged to your favorite pop star. I don't care that him and his brother have a popular sports podcast and that like Kylie Kelsey is now famous too. And oh yeah, it's so cool. Let's put Jason Kelsey on everything. Travis is so cool. He's such a good dude. He's a fucking jackass. And like just like stuff like this just pisses me off so much where just rich people just think they can do whatever they want and they're like, we're just supporting our teammate. Like absolute Bush League move. Well, you know what it reminded me of was it was a couple of years ago. Kevin Durant was like arguing with people on Twitter and they're like, you have such a cushy life and blah, blah, blah. And he's like, you have no idea how hard my life is. I get up every day at 10 a.m. to go to the gym. And everybody was like, oh, 10 a.m. You got to be at the gym at 10 a.m. Kevin Durant. Oh, no. Like, and people were like, I'm on an oil rig at 5:30 in the morning. Or like, I got it. Like, people were saying all the stuff they got to do. I think I'm not even blaming the professional athletes, but I just think like being a professional athlete just detaches you so much from reality. And like, the people that were hurt in that accident are just everyday people just trying to do their best. Right. And you're like this young, rich athlete. You're on top of the world. You think you can do whatever the fuck you want. And you like really hurt these people and you're not taking accountability for it. And all your teammates are like, yeah, we support him.
Yeah.
So if anything, we need to make the next fouled out shirt punish for.
Yeah.
He was not punished enough. We need to punish him more. Because, again, if I did that as just a regular everyday person, I would be in prison for between 5 and 15 years, depending on how hurt those people were. So,
yeah. I mean, Joe Mixon, like, he probably, if one of us does that to the girl he did that to in college, or he shattered her jaw, like, it's not just your sports career that's over. Like, you're being run out of the university at that point.
Straight to jail.
You are in prison, and that university will not have you back.
Yeah. I know we went off on a side tangent, but like I'm very passionate about this type of stuff. If you guys can't tell, with like holding professional athletes accountable for their actions. Who is your scold for week 2? As if you could top that.
Might be less controversial, but
be better. Be better, Travis Kelsey.
Actually, for some individuals, it might be more controversial, but it's the brain drain truthers. Yeah, you guys thought that I was gonna skip rubbing in the Lions' 52-21 win and rubbing the salt in the wound. No. So, listen to all off season.
I'm shocked it took us this long.
I listened to all off season about how Ben Johnson was the real genius of the Lions offense, and how the brain drain of losing 2 coordinators was going to really destroy this Lions team, and they were going to take a massive step back this year. Because it happened to Philadelphia a few years ago. As if Nick Sirianni is the same kind of head coach as Dan Campbell. Nick Sirianni brings nothing to the table except occasionally hiring good coordinators. And what do you know? The Lions, sure, like, week 1 rolls around, they look terrible. All sorts of miscommunications all over the board. Really fed into that narrative. It looked bad. 52-21 week 2 against the Bears. Against Ben Johnson. And before anyone's like, oh, well, Ben Johnson wasn't calling the defense. The defensive coordinator was Dennis Allen, who is one of the most highly respected defensive play callers of the last 20 years. Like, it, the concepts that John Morton was running were equally as complex as anything that Ben Johnson ran during his time here. In fact, there's very, very similar stuff. Almost like when the entire Lions organization, before Ben Johnson even left, were telling you creating the offense was a collaborative piece of work that involved Dan Campbell, Ben Johnson, Jared Goff, many of the lower level offensive coaches that were still there. And also among them was John Morton, who was there when it was being put together in the first place. And if that wasn't true, I don't know that their second game would have resulted in 52 points. It also ties the most points that Ben Johnson's offense ever scored in Detroit. Also, Ben Johnson is 0-2 without Jared Goff.
That's factually correct. I just enjoyed having Amon-Ra St. Brown on my fantasy team as he caught 3 touchdowns. I mean, I know how much people love to hear about your individual fantasy teams, but I have Amon-Ra St. Brown, Malik Neighbors, James Cook, and amongst others. I had fun on Sunday. I had a great day Sunday. My phone did not stop going off in the 1 p.m. window. It's like, hey, Amon-Ra scored, Neighbors scored, Amon-Ra scored, Neighbors scored, Amon-Ra scored, James Cook scored. It's like, yeah, this is great. This is great. Let's do this every week, Lions. All right. Final couple segments before we log off here. The gambling picks for week 3. So I don't want to call it a bounce back week 2. Week 1, we lost all of the bets. Week 2, we went 2-3. So we had Green Bay to beat Washington. That happened. And then just thank God for Baker Mayfield and the Bake Show, because we had Tampa Bay to beat Houston on the money line. And I was very nervous about where this segment, the future of this segment for a little bit there. And Baker kind of saved it. Hard carried the segment here. It should have been a bounce back week because we had the Broncos money line over Indy. And I just, the leverage call was the right call. I'll say that.
It's in a technical sense.
Just a stupid thing to do. My scold originally, before I saw the free 4 shirts, was going to be Denver's coaching staff, but I digress. We lost $25 last week, so we're down $125 for the year. Should have been up last week, but we'll try to do better this week. Starting with Thursday Night Football, the Buffalo Bills at home for the Miami Dolphins. Buffalo favored by 12.5 points. Matt, you get first pick.
I'm going to go Bills minus 16.5 for plus 131. I know that it's Thursday Night Football, and it's a divisional game and all that. I struggle to see this being less than a 20-point game, honestly. Miami has never been able to handle Buffalo, and now this team is just dead on arrival.
Yeah. This is my favorite thing about Matt is the yes and of Matt I'm like, I don't like 12.5 points. And Matt's like, neither do I. So I made it bigger. I'm like, oh God. I wanted to go the opposite way and take the Bills by less points. Didn't want to give up the juice. So I did something pretty horrific here. Maybe worse than what Matt did. And just hear me out. 4-team 7-point teaser for the weekend, including the Buffalo Bills. As a reminder, the teaser, we throw teams together. We get to tease down the lines, but we need all 4 legs to hit. Here we go.
Yeah. I will say also part of where I'm coming from too is I knew I should have pushed harder for that Lions alternate game line.
You should have, but man, I'm taking essentially a 4-leg parlay here for my Thursday Night Football bet, so I'm not going to criticize you. The 4 teams, we have the Buffalo Bills by 12.5, the Packers by 8.5 at Cleveland, the Bucks by 7 at home for the Jets. Justin Fields out with a concussion. The Seattle Seahawks at home -7 for the Saints. So we take all 4 of those teams. We get to tease down all the lines, 7 points. Here's what we end up with. Bills -5.5 versus Miami. Packers -1.5 at Cleveland. Bucks just to win versus the Jets. And the Seahawks just to win versus the Saints. For a whopping +180. Yeah, that's what I did. That's what I did this week. You know why I did that, Matt? Because the pick I gave out on the podcast. Yeah, but the pick I gave out on the podcast last week was Broncos money line against Indy. The pick I made in real life was, I think, like the 49ers, the Broncos, and the Rams in a teaser. And it slapped. It slapped for +140 last week, Matt. And so what I agreed to do is give out the things that I'm actually betting this week, because I went 4-2 last weekend. And here we are. Here we are. Some of you might call me a sick man because you should. I'm always the one that's like
correct.
Yeah, but I'm always the one that's like, you should never have a parlay over 2 legs. But this isn't a parlay; it's a tease. So, but like, I mean, tell me who's gonna fuck me there. Bills minus.
No, and that's the problem.
Yeah, Bills -5.5. Green Bay -1.5 at Cleveland. And then basically the Bucks and the Seahawks at home against the Jets and the Saints. Just to win. Just to win. One of those teams is losing this weekend, and I'm going to be pissed. One of these 4 teams. One of these 4 is losing this weekend. I guarantee it.
It's going to be the Bills, and we're both going to be boned.
Please no. We need to have like one really good week to get us back on track.
Yeah.
And I went with a plus money pick on the weekend. So what is your weekend pick?
I'm tempted there. I don't know if I want to pull the trigger on it. It's a little risky.
Matt's like Saints over Seahawks.
I want to take the Rams money line. +154.
154 at the Eagles.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I certainly have my concerns about the Rams' offensive line versus Jalen Carter, but the Eagles' passing game is definitely something concerning now, I would say. You could... Okay, they explained it away week 1, right? But it was equal. Hurts had 101 passing yards week 2. I don't know. I mean,
yeah, they don't seem interested in throwing the ball down the field.
No, and this is a team in the Rams, too, that feels like they let one get away last year in the playoffs.
Yeah. This is either going to be the best week or worst week we've ever had on this segment, because we're setting a show first by picking 5 different bets that all have plus money.
Yeah.
Because my pick for the weekend is the Patriots money line over the Steelers at home. It's +105.
Mm-hmm.
The Steelers' defense has been bad. They've allowed big games to Justin Fields and Sam Darnold so far, and Aaron Rodgers started to look like the Aaron Rodgers from last year when faced with pressure. Big key for the New England Patriots. Christian Gonzalez is practicing today. And that is a transformative thing for the defense if he plays.
Mm-hmm.
The long shot bet, I don't have options this week. So many of the lines are so high this week, and I took all the high lines and I threw them into a teaser, which will be fun. But like, it's hard to be like, oh, the Seahawks are going to beat the Saints by 23.5, and that's plus 400. So I want to take Green Bay's defense and special teams to score a touchdown against Cleveland. I watched Joe Flacco ad nauseum last Sunday. He threw an interception that was so bad that the announcer was like, "You're 40 years old. You can't throw that pass." Oh my God. He's thrown 3 interceptions already and has a fumble that was already taken back to the house by the Ravens last week. He's been a turnover machine early in the season. They brought in Gabriel last week. Gabriel, not much better. I like the Packers defense and special teams to get that done. It is plus 425. Final segment before. Okay, so the bets. The insane. This is either going to be by far the best week we had, or we're going to lose all 5 of these.
0 for 5. Yeah.
The bets for week 3. 4-team 7-point tees. We have the Bills, the Packers, the Seahawks, and the Bucks on the tees. We have the Bills minus 16.5 on Thursday night. The Patriots money line at home against the Steelers. The Rams money line on the road against the Eagles. And then Green Bay's defense and special teams to score a touchdown. Man, I'm just going to tell you, if we hit all 5 of these, we have made our year. We'll just be done. We'll just be playing with house money the rest of the year, baby. But I like it. We need something to like shake up the mojo on this segment because it hasn't been great so far this year. So
it's funny that like we did poorly with our picks, but like personally, we both did well.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because I hit a plus 800 same game parlay for the Lions.
That was one thing I regretted from last week was you did bring up, like, should we pick the Lions to beat the shit out of the Bears for the long shot? And we didn't, and we should have. All right, last segment. We won the eliminator pool last week. I know we were mentally scarred by the Ravens, but we stayed strong, made the pick. 96.5% of the pool advanced last week. So the first 2 weeks, we've now had 94% and 96% advance. The Ravens were the most popular pick last week with 30.8% advancing. The most popular incorrect pick was the Pittsburgh Steelers with 1.29% of the pool picking the Steelers. The culling is coming for us. I don't know if it'll be this week. It will come, where it'll be like 50% of people advance.
Yeah.
That said, I think we have 4 solid games to pick from this week, and it is the 4 games that I have already thrown into a teaser. The Bills at home for Miami, the Packers at Cleveland, the Bucks at home for the Jets, and the Seahawks at home for the Saints. Which one I am fine going with any of the 4.
I feel like Bucks at home versus Jets is the safest.
With Tyrod Taylor.
Not a division game. They're at home, going against a backup quarterback. An old backup quarterback.
Yeah.
Without a big arm, either. It's not like Flacco who can bomb you to death.
Yeah, I'm fine going with any of those 4. So Bucks at home for the Jets, it is. But that is it for us. As always, Fouled Out can be found on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Pocket Cast, Overcast. And now you can see the podcast on YouTube. Thank you for all of those who check out the podcast on YouTube. Make sure you like and subscribe to the channel. Good news, bad news. Stop posting the videos on TikTok. Started posting them as YouTube Shorts. So you can see us, you see all of our videos on YouTube, really. No more on TikTok. Look up Fouled Out Sports on YouTube. Go check it out. Like I said, like and subscribe to the channel. Appreciate your guys' support. And you can always reach out to us, fouledoutsports@gmail.com. Really appreciate you guys listening and watching. We always love to hear from you. Matt and I will be back next Thursday to talk about what is hopefully a very, very successful weekend for the gambling segment of the podcast. I'm going to keep my fingers crossed starting on Thursday night. But until then, I will see you soon, buddy.
Yep. Bye, guys.
Bye, guys. Bye,
Bye,
Mom.
Robin.